Hello, everyone. Today I'm joined with Dibson. How are you doing and where are you?
I'm doing good. I'm in Michigan in the United States.
And it's good weather, I see.
Yes, very sunny right now.
That's nice. We've got sun in the UK as well, which is not always the case. So we're going to talk about your journey, which you believe you're a twin flame. So we would like to hear what you have to say and understand more. So let us know a little bit about your background first and how was your life before meeting your twin flame, if you want to share any of those details.
So I was born in El Salvador, and I kind of had the first few years of my life were a little bit traumatic in a way. Um, my parents moved to the US when I was very young, so around 1 to 2 years old. And I was left behind with my grandma. And then at the age of 5, I was brought to the US. And I remember that experience being really traumatic. I had a deep bond with my grandma, and being ripped away from that connection um, was really painful. And when I came to the US, I was about to turn 6, and I didn't really know my parents that much. For a lot of years, I communicated with them over the phone, but I didn't really have like an actual bond, a connection with them. My bond was with my grandma. And so that was difficult to adjust to living with my parents, a new culture, a new language. I didn't know any English. Um, and throughout my childhood, we moved a lot, faced a lot of like financial issues, lots of different traumatic events that I could remember throughout my life that, as I've done healing and inner work, that has come up um, in order to heal.
Yeah, and when you meet your twin flame, every little bit that's left, even things that you didn't even know, come up, right? So let's talk about your twin
Exactly.
flame journey. So when did you first realize you were on the journey? How did you meet your counterpart? And would you classify yourself as the masculine or the feminine energy?
I'm the divine feminine energy. So we met in 2021, and this is where it was kind of interesting for my particular story. And it's a part that I'm like not necessarily proud of, that I wish that I could redo again, but I know it's part of my journey. So we met through, I at that time was married, and I had 2 children, had a long-term marriage. But I was not in a place where I was faithful to that marriage. And so I'm bisexual, and I was on specific apps tailored towards like gay men. And that's where I met my twin flame.
And was it straight away?
And
Like, did you straight away know, or
um, I think we met once, and we actually talked before, and he was very insisting about meeting, and I was kind of like, no, kind of like pushed him away. And I can't remember the exact details, but I think we never met, and I ended up blocking him. And I think like a few weeks later, he like popped up again um, through a different number, through a different social media, and that's when we reconnected again. And then that's when we actually met. And then there was the second time we actually saw each other face to face. I looked into his eyes, and I knew there was, like, I thought in my head, this is a different person. Like, I know this person. And that was like, I knew nothing about twin flames at that point. I wasn't spiritual. I grew up Christian my entire life. So all of this was completely new. And I was just like, but I know this person. Like, this person is totally different.
so were there any like signs or confirmations that came from that as well?
Um, I didn't start getting signs about or information about the twin flame journey probably until I was towards the end of that relationship, we did have a brief relationship. And after the separation, like the technical separation, is when I got flooded with information about twin flames and a lot of like the divine feminine energy and what that was all about. When I met him is when I started getting like on my TikTok feed, it became tarot when had never really
The
I had
dreaded
never really listened. Right. I had never really listened to tarot before. And then all of a sudden, after meeting him, like my whole TikTok feed became tarot and all about love and all that kind of stuff. And so that was definitely interesting to me because it wasn't something that I really looked for before or even had a really knowledge of it at all.
I find the tarot like gets you in that addiction even more, right? It gets you so looped into it, like, oh my God, he's coming back. He's never, he's never coming.
Right, right.
It's all those things. So what caused the separation? You said you had a short, brief, like bubble phase. What was the separation about? And then what happened during the separation?
So we had about a 9 month relationship. The separation, I think there was a lot of triggers that we had experienced from the very beginning of our relationship. And that really became burdensome because we didn't really know how to work through these triggers that we were both experiencing. Our communication skills weren't really that great. And to be honest, I'm in no contact with my twin flame right now. I don't really know for a fact his reasoning behind the separation. I have my suspicions, and I know there was like influence from his friends and possibly his family, but his specific reasoning for the separation was that he needed to find God, and that was the reason. That's what he told me, and I took that and kind of like, okay, I gave him that.
I
That
mean, that's a really nice thing to hear, I would say. Anyway, if
Yeah.
my one had said something along those lines, I'd be overjoyed. But so during your separation, what were the challenges? What were the things that you faced? You went through loads of dark nights, ego deaths. What was going on?
So our story was a little bit different also. So we kind of really rushed things a lot. We actually moved in together in July and we signed a year lease and then we broke up in September. And so we lived for another 9 months together after being technically not in a relationship, separated. And that period was extremely triggering because it almost felt like we were technically together, but not. And so we were constantly triggering each other. Um, and I probably don't really want to talk about all that. It became kind of a living hell in a way.
Yeah.
Living with your twin flame, not being in a relationship. I saw a lot of things that I didn't want to see. He saw a lot of things that he didn't want to see. A lot of very strong fights, we could say, in terms of like verbal communication. It was a bad period. But during that time, I began to bring the focus back to me and wanting to change my behaviors. I acknowledged that I had a lot of behaviors that I didn't want to continue. And so I began working on myself. I began doing like new moon rituals to improve, certain habits that I had. I began to do shadow work. A lot of different things kind of started coming up that really motivated me to heal. And then after the separation, after those 9 months, I moved away from the state of Virginia, which is where we met. And that's when my healing journey really accelerated, when we were like physically apart, no contact. Um, I had a Kundalini awakening at that time. And that's when shadow work and healing became pretty much the entirety of my life, really.
Your lifeline, yeah. So just before we move on to more on that, how would you differentiate this connection with other connections like soulmates or karmics? Like what made you understand that it was different?
I think just the amount of synchronicities in regards to this connection. My synchronicities didn't really like kick in until I was like physically separated from him. You know, seeing his name, his birth date constantly. Um, like telepathic communication also. This is kind of like a weird fact, but um so when you're the chaser, you're like looking at their social media, right? And I would get intuition to check his social media or check if he was on a certain app, and he was right there. It's like I would always get these nudges that he was, this communication, this connection just became like I knew it was something different, that this was not necessarily a normal relationship.
So going further with the synchronicities, did he ever communicate that he was getting them too, or was that you didn't get it to talk about that?
No, I don't think he ever communicated to me that he would get those synchronicities.
Okay. So there was the name you said, his birth date. Were there any songs or messages? You talked about telepathy. Were there any dreams? What were
Oh,
the
yeah, songs for sure. Songs is probably like the biggest way of communication with songs. Especially during separation, it's been like if I'm thinking of something and related to him, like I'll get a song, kind of relaying that same exact message or confirming something. Um, so a lot of different messages with songs. And then what was the other thing that you asked me? Songs and
themes or other like things? Anything else?
dreams. I think there was a dream. I had a dream. So when we separated and I moved, we had a little bit of points of contact, maybe 2 or 3 points of very short contact. And the last point of contact, I actually dreamed that we were going to go into like a long period of no contact. Maybe a week before that actually happened. And I've gotten dreams during separation of kind of like energetic check ins on how he's doing. Like I've seen dreams of him being okay with his friends. I've seen dreams where he's a little bit more approachable to me and is now like talking to me. Dreams of when he's like running away from me. Those kind of I feel like those are energetic check-ins of like where he's at on his part of the journey.
And then with regards to the 5D experiences, did you see his higher self or the astral version either in daily life or in the non-physical? Some people get that. I mean, I certainly did. Did you have any of those sort of weird experiences?
I haven't really seen the only experience. I've kind of felt his presence a few times before. I've kind of caught myself as I've been doing like shadow work. I almost feel like he's right there physically. Um, or times where I'm like laughing or doing something and I feel like I'm him because I'm doing the same mannerisms or doing the same laugh, which is kind of throws you off because you're like, whoa, what's going on?
You start
But
becoming like
those,
that.
yeah, those are the experiences that I've had, and there was another experience where I literally felt him like almost in a sexual way on top of me. Um, once, and I was like really thrown off by that because I'd never had that happened ever before. I was like kind of like what just happened here?
Yeah, a lot of people get that as well. So how did you deal with being a Christian and then having all this stuff happen to you and all the synchronicities and going through, how did you manage to like integrate your spiritual self?
So I grew up Christian, multiple denominations of the Christian church, and really my like healing journey began before meeting my twin flame. Several years before that, I had already started questioning a lot of the Christian beliefs. I was questioning, I was in the closet at that time. So part of my questioning was, how can God love me if I am a bisexual man? but the church says that I'm a sinner. But I know God loves me because I had experienced that love from them before. And so I was debating all that in my head, and not just like that specifically, but a lot of other different beliefs. And since a kid, I always had this connection with God and prayer. And so I remember breaking down before meeting my twin and really asking God, show me the truth. Like, if I am a sinner, change me, change who I am, change that part of me that is wrong. And, a few years later, that's when my twin flame journey began. So by the time I met my twin flame, I was no longer involved in the church whatsoever. I was already kind of letting go of those beliefs. Um, and then once I started getting bombarded with new beliefs, like spiritual beliefs about the new moon and working with the lunar cycles and shadow work, which I had never, you know, heard about before.
And is
It's
it the
almost
new moon? Is it the new moon tonight or was it last night? Because there's a new moon happening.
it was the full moon last night.
Interesting how your interviews come at that time. Okay, cool. Yeah, yeah.
Um, but once I started getting all this spiritual information, kind of almost brought to me, really, and I started learning more about that, it kind of like sunk in. It felt really natural. I didn't really question it. I just wanted to learn more about um, what was being presented to me.
And so being a divine feminine in a male body and then also being in a same-sex connection, how do you grapple with that? Because sometimes I get some kind of not nice people on social media saying, all sorts of things. And then, yeah, how, because for men as well, like to say, oh, you're divine feminine, it's like really strange. I personally don't like the label. How is it for you?
So I do post on TikTok and I do get quite a few comments about, people questioning how I could be the divine feminine energy in a male body. And I'm always having to explain, it doesn't matter the physical body we're in. We both have both energies within us. I'm just more of divine feminine energy. And so that's always a little bit difficult to kind of explain to people who don't understand necessarily that concept. But I find that a lot of like true twin flames and divine feminines really kind of get that point. They understand where that's at. Especially because we can resonate so much on our journeys. They're almost, there's lots of really identical parts of our journey. So once I'm able to tell my story, they could relate to it and see that, yes, I am the divine feminine energy.
But for you, was it a challenge to accept that in the beginning? And then also having the same sex connection as well. Was that an issue for you?
Um, yes, it was a little bit of an issue, because I had to like fully come out of the closet to kind of talk about the relationship. And so that was kind of different to me, but at the same time it was kind of a point where I felt I needed to be authentic with myself. So I kind of embraced that part of myself also in being coming out as bisexual and talking about that relationship. Um, Especially because, it's something that I hadn't talked about before. And so it felt like I needed to speak about that part of my life.
Yeah, that's good. That's not that many of us, I think, so it's good to hear that. And there are slight variances. I've known people who've lived with or worked with their twin or whatever else for longer periods, like yourself. So there are little nuances which do change. You talked about the inner work you've done, so I want to delve into that because sometimes I get people who message me saying, "Yeah, I meditate 10 minutes a day every day, and I'm doing that, and I'm here," like, and they're still stuck, right? I feel like sometimes you have to do a lot of work. It depends on what you're carrying. So, what sort of things did you do, and what helped you the most, and what changes did you see either in you or your twin?
So the biggest thing that I've done, the practice is journaling. That I highly suggest journaling to anybody. I could say that it has literally changed my life. Um, so what I do in journaling is not only do I like about what my day was, but I talk about the emotions and kind of try to see them from a different perspective. So if I was angry or, I try to analyze myself a lot of times, just kind of be my own psychologist and figure out why I'm feeling a particular way or what is the root cause of my feelings. And so that I feel has helped me a lot in terms of actually getting to know myself, what my triggers are, and why I act a particular way.
So
And
self-reflect,
then,
but you have to be very
yes, a lot
you
of
have to be
reflection.
you have to be very honest with yourself, right? Because I sometimes get people ask questions and I'm like, you're asking a question, you want to hear my answer because I'm gonna say what I want to say, and they don't like the answer, Some people can't swallow that pill.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up because I tend to comment in some of the like twin flame Facebook groups, and maybe sometimes I'm a little too blunt, but I can kind of see where people are maybe holding themselves back and not being completely honest with themselves. But I think you have to really know how to look in the mirror and look at even all the stuff that you don't want to look at on this journey. You have to be able to see your shadows, see, those things that you've been avoiding your entire life, because that's where the true change is, really.
Because it's so easy just to blame the DM and say he's an asshole and that's it, and I'm perfect. I'm a perfect princess. But yeah, you're not. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah. A lot of things that I've done also is working with the new moon. So I've done like new moon rituals. I tend to write down on one side of the piece of paper, I write down everything that I want to let go. And usually it's like habits, characteristics that I'm still trying to let go of myself. So like shame, guilt, whatever it may be. And then on the other side is when I set my intention. So I pretty much do the opposite. If I'm letting go of fear, then you know, change that over to joy or whatever it may be, whatever I'm trying to attract. And so I've been consistent on doing those new moon rituals, and that has also helped me in just being able to set intentions and letting go of things. And of course, meditation, several YouTube channels that have helped me a lot in regards to meditations and rituals of the like. Um, and then also, there was a period where I began to learn more about like spiritual practices like tarot and Reiki. Um, and I wanted to learn lot more about, metaphysical things. And so I kind of applied certain things that I've learned from those on, and applied those things to my journey.
And then have you done all this alone, or did you have a healer, a coach, someone to guide you, or you did it all yourself?
I haven't really had like much of a mentor at all. I've kind of all just been doing it on my own. Um, I think for me, something that I truly believe is connecting with my higher self and my spirit team. Um, I believe that my higher self knows all the answers on my journey. So why wouldn't I get those answers from my higher self? They know me better than any coach or any other person would know. And so part of my journey is to really create a bond with my ancestral team, with my higher self, with my spirit team, to receive the guidance from them on my journey rather than receiving guidance from external sources.
It's so interesting. Like, I was driving to the gym just now and I came back. And when I was driving, I was thinking about my posts for today, which were about fetish and going to the club wearing a harness or whatever. And I was thinking, I wonder how, like, my twin would have felt, what other people would have felt. And on the car, right away, it said triggered. It actually said triggered. And I feel like you can get all those answers yourself if you're tapped in, right? But often people are too much in fear and confusion to be able to be still, to listen to those signs. So have you noticed your twin flame change or come closer to you, or is the separation still at the moment going on?
We are about to be in, let's see, 2 years of no contact in October. So I haven't seen any, we've had no communication. I haven't really seen him at all change. In the physical, I do feel like he has changed. I could feel the change happening energetically, but I have not seen that with my own eyes.
What about his social media or anything like that? Has that improved, or well, I don't know if it was bad or
So he's one that doesn't really post much on social media, and he does have me blocked. So there's really
okay,
nothing that there's really nothing there.
okay. See, I love a DM who don't post. Anyway, that's me. That's my own little behaviors there. Okay, so let's look at some mystical aspects of the journey, because the twin flame journey is deeply mystical and mythical and spiritual, because a lot of people think they're on the journey, but most of them I feel are not. But let's talk about did you get any intuitive, psychic, spiritual abilities? You talked about your ancestors and your guides and the higher realms and the higher self. So let's talk more about those things that you tapped into.
Absolutely. I got so after going through like Kundalini awakening, my third eye has like completely opened where um, prophetic dreams, being able to work with divination with oracle cards and um, also like clairvoyance, clairaudience have been turned on where I receive messages through music, through like sound. Um, After like Kundalini awakening, kind of felt chaotic, but once like I began to kind of develop those skills, they I've been working on like truly seeing what these skills are about, and there's even more skills that are coming up. Like right now, I forget what the name is, but for Claire, the ability to smell.
Yeah, is
Um,
it Claire sent? No, that's feeling sentient. Claire something with the nose. Okay.
Claire, yes, whatever. That has been activated recently. I've started getting like, for example, just a few weeks ago, I think, I started smelling the smell of like chamomile, and I was like, where is this chamomile coming from? At home, at work, and I was like, okay, what does chamomile mean? It was like calm, soothing, and that was the guidance like my team was trying to tell me. It was like, be calm, be soothed, like because at that moment I was kind of like a little bit chaotic, and they were giving me that message of like, okay, you need to like take on this energy of chamomile. Um, and so stuff like that, where you get these messages, intuitive notions, these knowings that you just absolutely know that it's for a fact, but you just don't know, can't explain it.
Wonderful. And anything paranormal or something to do with your twin flame or any we talked about the 5D and you feel his energy and things like that. Um and then is there anything to do with your spirit guides? How do you connect with them? How do you connect with your ancestors? Do you just talk to them?
Pretty much, I just talk to them. I talk to them as if they're just a presence in my head, really. I ask them for help. I ask them for guidance. Whenever I approach the altar, I usually communicate with them there. Um, it feels like I'm constantly talking with them, with my higher self, just asking for help, asking for guidance, and just being attentive to the signals that they're sending me. I think that's the important thing. I think you mentioned that is just being aware of what synchronicities and signs they're sending you, because they're always communicating with you. You just have to pay attention to what the signs are.
Because people will be watching and
I
they'll be
think
thinking, like, how do they differentiate
go
between
ahead.
whether it's the higher self and the team or their own inner talk, you know. That's a blurry.
Um, that's it's difficult, but I think once you start developing that relationship, I feel like you can kind of tell it's still your own voice, but it's different. It's it's um it's like it's not coming from your own thoughts. It's like it's very hard to explain, but it's like it just comes out of nowhere sometimes where you get a specific thought or a specific message that you haven't really necessarily created it, or it hasn't been like a train of thought. It just comes out of nowhere type of thing. And that's when I could kind of differentiate when it's coming from my spirit team, my ancestors, instead of just like me talking to myself.
Yeah, some people that I speak to, they say things like they have a certain guide and the name of that person they see or they hear or they the name, and then they know that that person is talking to them. I mean, recently my spirit daughter has been coming through, and I'm sorting out the retreat to Bali, and then she's all over that, fixing it, sorting it out, and the name pops up and the energy, and I'm like, okay, you got it handled, it's all good. So I understand that. The next question is, do you believe you and your DM have a sacred shared mission or a purpose together? Do you feel like you'll be together?
I do believe we have a mission together. I think lately that mission has been like a really big focus of mine. I have these really big dreams that I want to accomplish, and I didn't really know how they like tied into my twin flame, or how they will tie in really, but I feel like the divine knows what how it all ties together. I want to touch on healthcare and education. I've been creating my own systems of like healing with music and that kind of stuff. So there's like a lot of different things that I've been working on throughout my journey that I want to kind of share with other people, and I think bring those ideas to life. And I feel like, especially with music, my twin flame is a musician, and so I know there's something there in regards to music that connects us both together in a way of bringing about some sort of mission with to the world. And I do believe we are going to be in union. I think I've gone back and forth between believing and not believing, but I am at the stage where I'm trusting full force that that is part of our destiny. I think a focus of mine lately has been working with the subconscious mind and reprogramming the subconscious mind. That's kind of what I've been learning about. And so, if I desire union, then I'm going to tell my subconscious mind that that's what we already have, and that's what we are going to achieve. And so therefore, I'm staying in faith and trusting that that is where I'm headed.
And then allow it to work out as and what time it's meant to happen. Cool.
Right.
So with the purpose, a lot of people get confused and lost. What's my purpose? I don't know what to do. And I feel like it clarifies over time, step by step. Like I'm doing a retreat. I never thought I'd do a retreat, like never in the wildest dreams. So all those things kind of like step by step work together. So how did you learn to understand your purpose?
It's funny that you say that because I was there with everybody. I don't know what my purpose is. I have no idea what I want to do. And really, up until just this moment is when all the puzzle pieces are actually coming in together. Because I've been working on a lot of different things and I've had so many ideas about things that I want to do. I've been making TikToks and kind of teaching about twin flames, but I've also been learning about um, Reiki, the subconscious mind. I've been doing my own system of healing with music and shadow work. And I have these ideas about education and healthcare, but I've never really figured out how they would all interlock. Only up until literally this week is when I feel like, okay, so now I have deeper clarity of how these things are actually going to come in together. And I think my advice is to kind of just follow where your curiosity goes. All these things um that I have learned about, have like developed certain practices, were all because I was curious and attracted to these things. And I never really thought that they would all kind of come together. But, the divine knows better, and they all do really come together in this like wonderful plan. And so that to me, I really find amazing that it's kind of all coming in together in this perfect puzzle recently.
So for sure, I really resonate because I didn't think I was going to do social media on this twin flame stuff. I couldn't care less. But here we are doing a lot of it. So what are your social media handles for those watching, please?
So I'll give you my link tree. It's SonOfDib, Linktree/SonOfDib. And I'm actually going to be starting like new. I have a current TikTok that is focused just on twin flame content. Out a little bit more into like subconscious programming and a lot of different other ideas that I have. But you could find all my social media links there.
Wonderful. So it's son of Dib, D-I-B. I'll put it into the
Mhm.
chat. The internet's being a little unstable. Hopefully it is okay. Right. So are you able to hear me?
It's SonOfDib.
S-O-N. We'll put it in the description. Are you able to hear me clearly? Because I feel
I
like there
can
is
hear you, but I can't see you.
okay. Because what I might do is pause for 1 second.
Okay.
So let's talk a little bit about divine feminine energy and what it's taught you about yourself, about the journey, and your role essentially.
I think divine feminine energy to me has taught me that I've kind of been living in this, or I was living in this like wounded masculine energy before my almost my entire life. And I had been almost neglecting this part, this energy in my life, this divine feminine energy that sits in stillness, that is caring, emotional, nurturing. I've been neglecting that part of myself. One, because of maybe like my sexuality, the way that I grew up in this like hyper masculine culture, Latino culture. Um, and also just like my wounding, my personal trauma. But being in divine feminine energy is where I feel most comfortable and most natural and most myself. And not in this like masculine, especially not in wounded masculine energy, where it's like it was just such chaotic life. Before kind of learning about divine feminine energy, I was always angry and mad and resentful and just I was a totally different person. Um, and now it's taught me divine feminine energy has taught me to be in stillness. I'm a Gemini, so moving fast and doing a whole bunch of things is something that is just nature of me. And so learning to be still and to rest and to take care of myself has been like a struggle in a way, or a lesson to learn. Because I like to do things fast and I like to take action and I like to be productive. I think that's a thing that I've battled with, thinking that in order to be happy, I have to be productive. And, divine feminine energy teaches you that you can be in stillness and you can rest and still be aligned to your highest timeline. without necessarily having to take action. You can balance taking action and being in stillness.
Yeah, it's about the balance. Yeah, and I don't know if I was saying like I have to get union now, control and all that and da 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 goals, and then you realize it's not in your control. So earlier you talked about your Kundalini. I want to get into how that experience was for you, and then we'll talk a little bit more about that. But initially, like, how did you feel it? Because some people feel it gently, and some people feel it very like vigorously, like I did.
Um, so I felt it kind of gently. It was the summer of 2023, I believe. Um, so I had moved to Michigan. Um, I was very much depressed, very much in a dark space. I remember that summer I was crying literally every day. At work, I would come home and I would cry for hours nonstop. And this went on for months and months. At that point, I was battling my addiction to marijuana at that point. And so I was constantly smoking, and that kind of like made things almost more intense as I was going through that period. It was just constant downstate, and I always felt like I was purging so much, just like going over a lot of really painful moments in my life. um and that's when like my spiritual gifts and kind of the signs and synchronicities really started to intensify. um I always mention that like Isis and Osiris were really prominent during that time. At one point in kind of like the manic phase, I thought that I was like Isis reincarnated, just because it was like she was so present
Can
um, in
I
my
ask,
life. It was just like,
can I ask you a
sorry, what
quick
was that?
Sorry, I
Yes.
want to ask a quick question about marijuana or addictions in general, because a lot of the DMs have that as well, but also the DFs at times have it. So when you were smoking marijuana, you said it was making it more intense and you were purging a lot. Was it numbing you out? Like, how was it like? Because sometimes it numbs you out and blocks you from doing it, and sometimes it might amplify it. Can you explain a little bit
You
more?
know, for me, and this has been a journey with marijuana also, marijuana actually amplifies me feeling the emotion. Um, a matter of fact, I feel like I can do better shadow work when on marijuana because I could feel everything and I can also see a higher perspective, a bigger picture of myself and what is going on. And so I think at that beginning phase, I was doing it more out of like the addiction of being in that state of highness. But as kind of like things have progressed, I've noticed that marijuana actually has helped me with the shadow work and being able to tap into a different kind of like psyche of myself, of being able to see myself differently or see myself in a different perspective.
Okay, wonderful. So you were mentioning about your Kundalini and how it was. Sorry if I got in there.
So yeah, so that time was really difficult. I remember feeling like sensations in my body, kind of that rushing of energy going up and down, what felt like, things opening up. Um, but that was the main part. Only until recently have I like had some experiences with my Kundalini where I feel like they were triggered by my divine masculine, but I felt like, intense burning sensation going up and down my body, my heart chakra like completely being burning, almost like a lot of really intense burning sensations in my body. It's almost like I am on fire and like things are
Burning,
melting away in my
burning the
body.
karma. You're burning the karma. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Um,
Yeah. Sorry, carry on. I'm
That's
interrupting.
it. No, that was it. I think that was it.
Just fine. I'm finding it fascinating. So, how has that affected your understanding of intimacy, divine love, all the kind of sacred sexuality? Do you believe in like that sacredness now with your twin
Ab
flame?
Absolutely. And that has been something that has been a change for me. So if I go back to when I met my twin flame, um, I was in a marriage, and so I was being unfaithful. I could say that I was a promiscuous person. Um, I was hooking up with people, and like who I am now is a totally different person than who I was back then. You know, um, after going into separation with my divine masculine, like all of a sudden I started a celibacy journey. It's something that I didn't even really decide myself. I just all of a sudden was celibate for months. And so that has been kind of like a journey on its own in trying to balance that sexual energy because for me it goes back to a lot of like inner child wounding. Um, and that's why I was promiscuous. That's why I was cheating and all of that. It's because there were moments of sexual abuse in my life. There were also where I believed that sex was a form of receiving love because I didn't receive love from my parents. And so all those beliefs are the ones that I've been changing and to really see sexuality as something sacred, as something that I want to share with somebody who means more to me than just a one night stand.
And with your twin, it always feels innocent, doesn't it? Pure, divine, beautiful, without sin. But I don't like the word sin, but you know what I mean. Okay, so we're wrapping
Right.
up. We're wrapping up. What advice would you like to give to people watching, especially those in separation? But yeah, what do you want to? What's the message you want to give?
I think if I would tell myself any advice from where I'm at now is like everybody says surrender to divine timing, but I think you realize that you really have no control of this journey. You think you do have control over this journey, but when you're at a where I'm at right now is I know I have very little to no control of this journey. And what you have to do is to learn how to flow with the river that you're being shown. It's like if you're trying to move against the river of your journey, and it's going to be really rough. If you're trying to control and if you're trying to do all these things, then it's going to feel really tough for you. The more that you can release and kind of just let the universe guide you and take you on the journey, the better things become. And to tie that in is like you can't run away from emotion. I think emotion for me has something that I've embraced a lot, especially sadness. And I could say in my TikToks, I talk about how like crying has become my newest like thing that I like because it's such a thing that we can transmute energy so quickly with crying. It's like we're literally releasing all that pain, all that sadness that we're feeling. And so if you're feeling sadness, whatever emotion that you're feeling, like actually feel it, embrace it. Um, Learn to love that and kind of like let it move through you and so you can let go of it. You know, a lot of times because of like conditioning, especially for men, we're told we're not supposed to cry. We're not supposed to have all these emotions. And I myself have become such an emotional person. Um, and it's okay. And I like that about myself because I can feel these emotions, but I can also, go back and level out, and be happy. And it's okay to feel these emotions. A lot of times, these emotions are the ones who are like teaching us the biggest lessons in our journey. Um, those emotions are where we actually learn and where we can actually ascend. Every time that I have a breakdown period, a period where I'm like extremely emotional and breaking down, after I go through that, I ascend. I go to the next level and I'm in a much better place afterwards. So it's like if you aren't doing that, then you're not really doing the journey correctly. I think that's what these emotions are coming up for you. And something also is if you're continuing to repeat the same emotion is because you're not mastering the lesson in itself in that emotion. And that is one thing that I have always kind of like tried to remember myself. Why do I continue to repeat the same things over and over? Like I need to end the cycle, and to end the cycle, I have to do something differently.
I got asked this question, so beautifully said. I got asked this question recently, and then I just felt the need. I'm going to ask you, okay? So the question was, Manny, do I have to talk about my twin flame journey to everyone? Do I need to talk about it online or whatever? So my question to you is, what prompted you? Like loads of people, I don't know if they feel it's a safe space or they connect with me or I don't know what it is, but I don't know what prompts people to want to share their journey. I feel it's like you've got it all bottled in and you want to let it out. But I don't know. What was your reason?
Yeah, that was pretty much it. I think I wanted to relay the lessons and the realizations that I was having on my journey. These I was learning so much about myself, about the world, about the people that I interacted with, and I wanted to tell people like what I was learning about and what all these like information that I received. I wanted to tell my story and see if people could learn from it, see if people could relate from it. Um, and I feel like a lot of people have related from it. Um, for me, it was scary. Like, I am not one to really post on social media or take pictures of myself. So, me being on TikTok and on camera was something that I was not comfortable with at all. And I'm still kind of not really that comfortable in it. But I continue to do it because I feel like my story does need to be shared and there is a message to relay. And I feel like whoever hears my story will receive that message and will hopefully apply it in their lives and in their story.
I mean, there's a bigger purpose than ourselves in all of this, right? And I was the same. I didn't want to do any of this stuff, but it's like it's not about me. It's not about us. It's about what we're here to do. It's the mission. It's the purpose. It's to help others. If you put that out of the way, the ego out of the way, you are compelled. It's like going through a near-death experience or going through, I don't know, hell. And then you just want to help people, right? You just want to share because you've gone
Right.
through so much and come out like the phoenix from the ashes. I'm really grateful. I think I've had such a great time talking to you, actually. It's been so nice just to
Thank
listen.
you.
You have a very good way of like calmly explaining things. So your link tree is Son of Dib, and is that SonOfDib, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I'll put it in the description. Thank you so much for taking the time out today.
Thank you.
Hope to see more of you soon. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Manny.